This episode of Philly Fame TV is sponsored by Top Dog Law. Now y'all already know who to call for any accidents or injury cases. If you want that top dollar, you better get at Top Dog. You can hit him up on Instagram at Top Dog Law or visit his website www.topdoglaw.com. Philly Fame. Alright, welcome back to Philly Fame TV once again. Appreciate y'all once again for tapping in. If that's your first time, checking into the channel, make sure you like, subscribe, click the notification bell, all that good stuff. But y'all now tuned into Drilladelphia episode 5. In this episode we gonna cover Caliba, Waterboy Caliba, aka Yali. We first launched Philly Fame TV back in 2014. That's when, around the time I first heard of Caliba. Back then in 2014, early on, he had a song with Core and a video. This was before Core was wavy. But he had a nice little name at the time, so that was a good look for Caliba to get that feature. Then fast forward to 2015, he had a song with Gilly on one of his projects at the time that he was dropping. He had a song with feature with Gilly at the time. Also in 2015 he had a song with ARA.
12 toes skinny, we was seeing plenty. Double homicide, put the needle with me. My dog turned red, I ain't seeing any. Stab him in his head, then you leave it in it.
So Caliba had nice little, he had nice little waves. So early on the Philly Fame days, I was hearing about him. He's one of the early young guys, making noise. He was amongst that young generation, that young wave that was coming up in the city at that time. The Cores, the Lights, Cameras, Dramas, all of them kind, artists at that time. So fast forward, we had a cipher at Black and Nobel we was putting together, and we was bringing out artists and all that. We was gonna film some content for the channel. So we invited a bunch of people, that we was connected to at the time, and some people that we thought would be good for it. So I ain't know him personally at the time, but I was seeing him, and I was hearing him, and I heard that he was a spitter. So I figured he would want to get in something like this. So when I reached out to him, he was with it. He came right through.
I say, let me sag and can't hold the ratchet. Chop him packing like we was trying to drop in Latin. The last nigga try to give me got a casket, and we just out here living life like we forgot what happened.
So we did the first cipher at Black and Nobel, the legendary Black and Nobel, when they was right there for Broadnary. They moved to South Street, since then, but that was back when they had it right there. And 2017, later on that year, we had a spot down Kensington called the Paper Mills, like a building with like a bunch of art rooms, and a lot of artists and stuff was renting out rooms and stuff in there. So we had a little spot in there, and we did a cipher in that joint. And Caliba had came down for that joint.
Quarter after 7, I'm in the quarter before 7. Mama got the 7. I played the quarter before breakfast, had that workout. Dumbbells and calisthenics, what you know about? Copping on Poppy and the bodega and the weather. Tucking brothers born like Armageddon, and let's just shoot at each other. Broke for 2 in this melon. Check it, we playing chess, Pac-Man and touches. Build the box, connect the dots, and we checking whoever. Wonder why niggas losing? Cause they still playing checkers, and they still playing catch up. I swear that they'll never catch us. I'ma die fucking hoes. R.P. Hugh Hefner. Get rich if you ain't getting that $1, do better. I move clever.
Caliba had came down for that joint and he did his thing in both of them, So he did his thing in the first joint, so we invited him down to the second joint. He did his thing again. Then a couple months later, so that cipher was October 2017. Couple months later, December 2017, we ended up doing an interview with him. So we had a nice we was rolling 2017, like I was really fucking with him. We was, doing a lot of work together. So he was 22 years old at the time we did that interview and all that. So, that's a little backstory about, how I heard of him and how I connected with him and some of the work that we did, together and all that. So now I'm gonna jump back a little bit and just touch on, a little bit of his actual backstory, get a little bit of history on Caliba. So based on how I know him to be from Blumberg Projects. That's what he was repping. As soon as he hit the scene, like since a young boy, like Blumberg. If you familiar, that was infamous back in the day, notorious Blum, aka the Water. They used to call it the Water back in the day. So that's why Caliba called it so, little clique, the Waterboyz, you know, from Blumberg. So, you know, the Blumberg Projects is not there no more, but, you know, back when it was there, you know, in its prime and all that, like, that's one of them places, like, a lot of people knew, man, you don't go through there if you're not from there, or if you ain't tied in with nobody that's, you know, from that joint. You don't just go through that joint, like, you know, that was one of them projects. You know, a couple people that's from there that, you know, well known from the city at the time, you know, Vito, you know, Turk, I mean, Noodles used to rap back in the day, you know, on Headshot DVDs and all that. He was rapping the Blum back then. And, you know, the new generation of Blumberg, you know, you got NSU Shido, you know, YP Slump Boy. Like, they rapping the new Blumberg and all that. But back in the day, when they had the projects and all that, you know, that's when Caliba and them was out there. Caliba said he jumped off the porch, like, around, like, 11, 12 years old, like. And one of his raps, I mean, you know, he talked about a lot of his life in his raps and all that. One of his raps, he said, you know, my mom was violent, my pop was violent. I mean, so that's pretty much like, you know, a little backstory into like his household environment and stuff like that.
Ever felt like the world was crashing on you? They say they got you, but when you need, they don't have it for you. And when you lose it, they are wondering what happened to you. So far gone, I couldn't tell you what happened to me. Traumatized as a child, my mama used to be wild, and my father used to be violent. My childhood was deprived, and I promised mama I'd make it through all these problems. But to be honest, this shit made me a monster.
You know, they was in a project, so, you know, the poverty was prevalent, obviously. So Caliba was outside as a youngin'.
Like I came on the step, I was 10 years old, 11 years old when I started trying to really do shit. And like, how I felt was either y'all against us or y'all with us. So we was always so much a Blum, like people always think like we just was rowdy niggas. No, like we was good dudes, it's just that we don't like no outsiders. Cause every time an outsider come in, there's always some foul shit go on. We keep the outsiders outside. Mainly it was just like a closing knit thing, you feel me? Losing a lot of my friends, so that shit was real. We was going through so much situation, fast blitz, like it was a lot of shit going on growing up in there, man. That was like, that would be traumatizing to the regular individual, you feel me? But like for me, like, I mean, I just live this shit as everyday shit, like, you feel me? I just watched my man just got hit in his neck 2 days ago. I'm regular, cause this shit everyday shit, you feel me? Like, that's just life, that's how it is coming to White Columbia, that shit real, like, that shit y'all hear in my music, man, that's growing up in Blumberg. That's coming from a nigga, coming from the heart of a nigga that really grew up in them projects, that really had to find his next meal and make sure he wouldn't be a victim out here. Like, that's real fast shit coming from a real nigga that really was out here, like.
You know, Vito was his big homie. You know, Vito was real close to Caliba, big brother, so he took Caliba under his wing and was mentoring him on a rap type time, you know. And Vito was down with Heady, you know, go-getters at the time, you know, when Heady was in his prime, popping up on the DVDs and the mixtapes, so, you know, they had a little weave. And he was putting Caliba on game, showing him stuff, coaching him on rap. Caliba actually got some footage of him rapping as a young boy when he was in middle school. You know, some footage from like 2007. Then he got another clip from 2008. You know, he was a pup, but he was talking his talk back then. Like, so you could tell, like, young boy, he was a different kind of young boy. He really was outside, like, man.
Let that thing clap me, be wrapped in the body bag. When I let shotty bass, I will leave that ass at. Oh, in the back, and he cuts on that fucking Mac. Thinking I'm a game, and I'm gonna let that fucking still clap. Can't forget about magic, we'll let that still clap. Yeah, and we really around out here. Beat out in the back, and he cuts on that out out here.
What a way, Caliba, you know, what I tell them niggas, man, I tell them, like, I'm on some other shit. Say my name, your mother.
Right.
Drummer shit, duffer shit, end the discussion shit. Wait on, let me sample him.
Go.
Hold on, let me clap on him.
Go.
Sample him, kick it back on him. 80 shots from the Met, call him Chris Carter. Spin his body real round like a barber. Call me the barber. Shout out to Boo Banks, my barber. Cut it up good, but I'm cutting like a DJ.
Right.
Still bring it back, we'll bring it back, it's not a
replay.
I just got him coming back from green light.
So also in 2008, Vito actually got locked up, you know. And that had a major impact on Caliba, you know, because that was his big homie, that was his mentor when it came to rap. That's who he looked up to, that's who was giving him game, and that's who was helping him out, you know. So that obviously took a hit to Caliba personally and, you know, for his rap, like. You know, Vito, you know, he's from Blumberg. You know, he used to, you know, rep Blumberg real heavy. And I see you be shouting up Vito and all that. So explain that relationship growing up, watching him do his thing to where he at now and all that.
V was one of them guys where it was like, I mean, when as far as the rap shit go, he pushed me, man. Like, that boy was always, before all this shit of me knowing what was going on with V or whatever, V always was a 100 person, you feel me? Like, that was my brother coach, one of my brother coach's friends, so he always looked at me like a little brother. And like, as far as rap shit go, he used to give me little pointers and shit when I was a young boy. This before anybody even knew I rap, you feel me? Telling me like, no, like, you do this way and do that way, and sometimes slow your flow down. Like, he was schooling me to this shit, man. And it was like, when I heard he got booked, I mean, it was back in 2008 and shit. I was in middle school, I'm on my way to school when I got word that he got booked this shit. And that shit, like, it fucked me up, because it was like, damn, this a nigga that's doing what I want to do and showing me the route with this shit as far as the music shit go. You feel me? As far as the street shit go, I mean, Vito is Vito, you know what I mean? What's understood ain't gotta be explained, but you know, that boy a good boy, man, like, free the real, you hear me?
So fast forward, you know, at some point in time, he was able to get rolling with the music. You know what I mean? Like I said, I heard of him in 2014 when we started Philly F.A.M.E. So, you know, a little bit prior to that, you know, he was rolling. And he was able to get some features, like I said, the feature with Core. You know, he had some features under his belt, Gil, ARF, so he was rolling. And at some point, he ended up catching a case. You know what I mean? He had to sit down for a little minute and fight the case. He was facing like 20 years. You know what I mean? He spoke on that in the interview pretty much. He ain't really specify what he was locked up for exactly, and I ain't really ask him or dig too much into all that, because that wasn't really what it was about. But you know, I just could assume based on, you know, stuff he was talking about and how he was carrying it, had to be, you know, something. I was just guessing something drama related, maybe like a shooting, an attempt, something to that extent of nature. You know, I could be wrong, but I just was assuming that. I mean, but obviously he made good from the situation. But it set him back a little. The time he had to sit down while he was fighting it, he had some momentum prior to. So, you know, once he sat down, that momentum died down, kinda. So, you know, when you come home, you gotta start back, pretty much start back over again. The time he was sitting down, other artists coming up, other people doing their thing, you know what I mean? So when you come back, you know, you gotta pretty much get the ball back rolling, get momentum back growing. So, you know, that's what he ended up doing. So when we did the interview, you know, December 2017, he was in the process of dropping his mixtape, The Anchor. And, you know, so that's part of the reason why we linked up to do the interview, to you know, give him some promo for the tape. You know, he had features with lights, cameras on there, Drama, Mamba Cinco. You know, they were always, you know, young, up and coming at the time, and they was wavy at the time, had a nice little name. But so that was a good look for him for his tape and all that. And during the interview, I actually asked him about his work ethic, because, you know, why he wasn't going as hard with the music. And, you know, at the time he had a wave and a name, but he wasn't really dropping heavy. He was, you know, popping in and out. Came to the ciphers he would do, but he wasn't really going as hard as he could have been going. And, you know, he actually explained in the interview like that he was full-fledged in the streets, like, and he was struggling with the transition to being an artist. Like, he said when his man's been trying to get him and pushing to do music more and go heavy with the music, but, you know, he was struggling with that, because whatever he was doing in the streets was feeding him and his fam. And, you know, at the time, you know, music, a lot of artists weren't really getting paid heavy off music like that unless you was on. Like, so a lot of independent artists, you know, make a little money here and there, features here and there, but what, you ain't had songs on the radio and all that. Like, you ain't really getting no show money and all that. So rap money is not really like that for independent artists like that at the time coming up. So he had to do whatever he had to do as far as like being in the mix to get his money. That's what he felt like. So he admitted his downfall was, you know, instead of chasing having a bigger name in the city with the music and all that, he was more so gravitating to chasing having a name in the streets and trying to be the realest in the streets. So, you know, he admitted, you know, like that was one of his downfalls. I mean, why he wasn't as big as he could have been with the music. And towards the end of the interview, I actually asked him, like, you know, with the tape and all that, like, why should people tune into his music? Why should people listen to him and all of that? I usually was asking, like, up and coming artists and give them an opportunity to let people know what separate them from, you know, other people. And a lot of times people answer, like, saying how they so hot or their music hot and they, you know what I mean? Like, they the best. So his answer actually kind of shocked me, like, Cause he was basically like more so like, you know, they should listen to me because I give game in my music, you know, give you a, I mean, like give a guide on how to survive out here pretty much, you know what I mean? So I thought that was an interesting way to answer that coming from him. I mean, I ain't never really expected. So for somebody that's tuning into this that's not really familiar with you, that never heard of you, that ain't never really heard none of your music, explain to them like why they should tune into this genre. Why should they listen to you? Why should they pay attention to Caliba? You know what I mean?
Cause it's an authentic story. Like this is like, you know how people write books and they be like fiction, non-fiction, novel, shit like that. This is like a real live autobiography through lyrics. Like this shit is really me. You know what I'm saying? Not only that, I paint certain pictures in your mind, man. I can help a lot. I give game in my music. If you listen, man, for all y'all little youngins that want to be in the streets and all y'all niggas that be trying to keep the young niggas out of the streets, I give game, man. I show you pointers. I break this shit down to you. I show you how to survive out here. Cause a lot of motherfuckers ain't never gonna show you that because they'd rather see you dead or in jail. I show you how to survive out here, man. You listen to my music, you can tell me. I tell you to stay away from the snakes and the fleas. I tell you who won't cross you. You just gotta watch and observe, man. I break that shit down, man. That's why you should listen. You feel me?
As we was doing the interview, you know, Vito had called. I mean, was calling in or whatever. So towards the end of the interview, we ended up putting Vito on and letting him speak on Caliba. And he pretty much stamped Caliba, letting it be known like, yeah, Caliba was a young boy out there. He come up under them. He official tissue. He come from that cloth and all that. So, and we did an interview with Vito too, you know, separately from that. So shout out to Vito. I mean, for sure.
Alright, man, y'all know what it is, man. It's Vito calling on, man. You know, right now, I'm up top, man. I'm coming right from shit wrong. I'm on blackout right now, man. I'm in the belly of the beast, man. But you know, I had to come through for my young nigga Caliba, man. Shout out to Caliba. He official, man. He a real dude, man. And I'm backing him, man. So you know what it is. We ain't stopping. You know what I mean? He got the anchor. He gonna hold it down. And that's just what it is.
After we did the interview, we kept in contact, I mean, for the most part, through like Instagram and stuff like that, touch base on different stuff here and there, you know. And at some point during 2018, the following year after we did the interview, I believe he had got shot in his foot. Based on the comments on Instagram, I didn't really say too much about it, but you know, people put the post up in their hospital bed and certain stuff they say, and you see certain comments, you know, kind of lean towards like, then you see the walking boot in his foot, so it kind of lean towards like he might have got shot in his foot, you know. So that's what I gathered from that. But he looked like he pretty much bounced back from that fairly quickly. Like I didn't really keep him down too long. Like, so in 2019, we actually touched base and talked about doing another cipher, you know what I mean? So I had reached out to him, let him know we was doing it and locked him in for it. But for whatever reason, you know, we ended up not doing it. Can't really remember why. We just never, you know, did it, whatever. So sometime after that, we had put a post up on the page to the extent of we was looking for artists to work with. You know, we try to get behind them, put them on our team, try, you know, push a couple artists, look for a couple artists to push it, you know what I mean, try to get them a deal. To that, something to that nature. And Caliba, to my surprise, was commented on the post. Like, cause mind you, like I said, Caliba had a little name. He was stamped. People knew who he was. I mean, he had songs with artists and all that, and he could rap. So we was more so looking at, you know, artists without names who was gonna be commenting. We was gonna have to look for some artists and find some people who was nice. So when he commented, it was like, damn, that's crazy. So I was on him immediately, jumped right at him, like, yeah, let's set up a call. I mean, let's exchange numbers. If he changed his number, let's set it up or whatever. Like, so that DM exchange on the gram was on November 27th, 2019, because I looked at it recently to see, like, man, like, for the interview, for this content, I mean. So yeah, that was the end of November, you know, 2019. We talked about that. I'm not sure if we had the phone convo. I think we probably did. You know, it was a couple years ago, so I don't want to make up no stories, and I don't exactly remember, but I knew I put it on my list to do, like, yo, once I get things in order, you know, that's one of the artists I'm going to definitely get with and work with, because, you know, I fucked with Caliba heavy, obviously. So some months later, let's say the last time I seen him, fast forward, was March of 2020. I mean, at Chuck E. Cheese, I mean, of all places. Like, my daughter's birthday, I took up there. We had a little party for her up there, And I see him in the joint. He was up there with his, I believe he was up there with his son or his 2 sons. I believe he had 2 sons. And I think they peoples or somebody had a party, because there was a lot of them. So I don't know if the party was for them or it was for some other people, because there was a lot of people in their party. But I believe it was like one of their people's party. He probably was there, I mean, with his kids to show love. So I just seen him in there on daddy time, just like me. So we briefly greeted each other, and I mean, chopped it up a little bit, and I mean, kept it brief, because I mean, we was like, I mean, acknowledge each other, let us know like we gonna holler at each other later. I mean, we both was on, you know, daddy time at Chuck E. Cheese. I mean, so like I said, I always planned to do something with him. I just had a lot going on, trying to get things together, trying to situate stuff so I can really, because you know, when you try to push artists, I know like, man, it take a lot, so you really gotta be focused, have things in order. And I take people's career serious. I wouldn't want to work for nobody and BS them, so I wanted to get some things in order before we really, I mean, went hard with it. I mean, so, but unfortunately, like a couple months after that, so that I seen him in March, and a couple months after that, unfortunately, you know, he had passed. I mean, he got killed tragically. I mean, and that was crazy when I heard that, because like I said, I just seen him, and like, you know, I obviously knew he was in the streets. I didn't really know exactly what he was into and all that. We ain't never talked to, I mean, about that kind of stuff. We just really talked about music. So I knew he was outside in the mix, but I ain't, you know, you don't know what people really be on and all that. So, you know, still shocking, even though I knew he was in the streets. But, you know, it just was crazy, man, because he really had talent as an artist, and he seemed like he really was trying to do that. Like I say, he had commented about being down and wanting to be, I mean, be a part of the situation, and he always came through for the ciphers. He always was down for, I mean, he was down to work, like, so just saying that was just like crazy, man. Like, I never knew what happened, never heard what happened, never knew no details. I just heard he got killed. That was it. Like, I ain't know where he was at. I mean, none of that. Like, so that joint really hit different. It fucked me up, man. Like, crazy. But recently, when doing a little background, you know, get some info to do this video, I had actually stumbled across a little vid that his little bro put out, Mutters. He did a tribute song and a video called Legends Never Die on behalf of Caliba. And in the video, they included a news clip from, you know, the shooting that happened with Caliba. So that's where I finally, at least, you know, I mean, knew where he was at and kind of knew where. I still don't know the backstory, but, you know, at least I finally get to see the news clip and what they had said on that joint.
Another shooting to tell you about, this one in Northern Liberties. Police found a 24-year-old man shot in the head in the parking garage near the F.A.M.E on West Girard Avenue. He's currently in critical condition, and officers are still looking for the shooter.
I mean, he was only 24 years old at the time, man. It was crazy, like. I mean, so I don't know exactly the exact date that it happened, but his last post on the gram was on March 4th, 2020. I mean, so it's crazy, man. R.I.P. to Caliba, aka Yali, man. That was crazy, man. I mean, and then I saw on YouTube too that, I mean, it's a tape that got uploaded on there called Legends Never Die. I mean, so that's currently out on YouTube right now. I mean, so R.I.P. Caliba again, man. Long live Yali, man. Like, crazy, man. I definitely was fucking with bro. Definitely was trying to do some work with him, man. Definitely was looking forward to working with him. Ain't no telling, you know. Caliba, he definitely could rap, in my opinion. Like, I mean, especially for that wave, because, you know, he was one of them young guys that still was carrying on the Philly tradition, being spitter. You know, at some point, you know, Philly was getting away from, you know, a lot of young guys was getting away from spitting. It was more like harmonizing and going along with the new wave and the new flows and how music was going. And Caliba was one of them guys that stayed to the Philly tradition and still sounded like he was from Philly. I mean, he still got that new energy and that new wave, but he had that, you know, that Philly talk, Blumberg, North Philly, like he carried that, he represented that. I mean, so crazy, man. R.I.P. to Caliba. I mean, like, condolences to his family, to his loved ones. I mean, everybody supported him. You know, 2020, that was, you know, COVID year, so yeah, that's the year he passed. Like, man, crazy situation, man. Like, condolences to his fam once again, his kids. I believe he had 2 sons, if I ain't mistaken. I mean, so condolences to them, I mean, And that's going to conclude this episode of Drilladelphia. I mean, share, subscribe to the channel, notification bell. Stay tuned for more content we got coming. Tap into the last content we put out previously. And in the meantime, in between time, man, stay locked in and tune in. Stay tuned for what we got coming up. We signing out. F.A.M.E TV, Drilladelphia. We out of here.